Hello and welcome to Redshirt Cinema Club, a weekly podcast about watching movies with friends. We've been telling Rob for years that he reminds us of Michael Douglas's at breaking point character from Falling Down. This week, to celebrate the podcast turning 1 year old, we sat down to watch the film and regretted saying that almost immediately, though we did find plenty to admire in this still alarmingly relevant urban rampage. Join us to find out why. Hello, welcome back to Redshirt Cinema Club. I am your host, Nathan Dighton, and this week, no apportioning of characters to other people because everybody knows that Robert Pearson is simply the star of this week's film. He's shaking his head, which just confirms that it's true.
God, he's getting up. Oh no.
He's got a baseball bat,
His briefcase.
We're watching Falling Down for our 1 year anniversary. Happy birthday.
Anniversary.
Happy birthday, everybody.
Yes.
So the big question is, Rob, did you see yourself in this character? Do you know what we're talking about?
I mean, the way you'd both spoken about this film beforehand, I was expecting it to be much funnier than it was.
It was much more racist than I remember.
Same.
I would like to think I'm not really like this character at all. I mean,
I don't think
he's quite unpleasant. I think this is a very strange film to be watching for our happy first birthday podcast.
Well, I was I was thinking maybe we should explain that a little bit because it makes sense to us, but maybe less so to people listening. That it's just I think this came from me originally, and I should caveat this by saying I've only seen this film once when I was like 10 or something. Really shouldn't have been seeing it. It's time for Falling Down, and it's not that I think you are like this character, and especially not having now watched it again. It's more that I always thought that you would enjoy the fantasy of this character.
This isn't okay.
I.e., when. I think the start is very good at just putting you in the shoes of, I fucking hate this. Like in a traffic jam, it's hot, there's a fly, everyone's annoying, some guy's on the phone. And I just think of you in a situation like that.
Really,
and the idea of, I'm just going to get out. And to begin with, he's not violent. He's just walking away from the situation. He's just having a breakdown.
Really specifically also walking through some bits of LA which aren't pleasant.
Yeah.
You would have, imagine if you'd had an Uzi. You'd have felt a lot better when we were walking through areas of LA for work.
I thought you would recognise God, it would be, people getting off the bus and bashing into you and just like, God, it would be good to just...
Yeah, but
what if there were no rules?
I would have thought that would be quite a universal reaction to this film.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a fantasy that surely most people have had.
Well, both Nathan and I think it would particularly resonate with you. So.
But you are right, though. I think that because I think our general reaction to this film seems like it has been this time, this is an odd film, and the particular pleasures, what's it trying to, what's it, the things that it's putting together, there is a pleasure in I'm not going to take this anymore.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But also, it's troubling in a way which I did not realise when I was younger.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a very good film. It was
a great film.
A far better film than I was expecting. I thought the performances were brilliant, particularly Michael Douglas and Robert Duvall especially. I thought was fantastic in this. But I did find it strange. I got the sense that the film wanted us to be, at the start at least, rooting for defence, for Michael Douglas's character.
Yeah.
And I can understand, not taking any crap from the gangland members and flipping it round. I mean, the neo-Nazi, the most awful person in the film by some distance. Of course, you're on Michael Douglas's side. You want him to turn it round and, I'm not like you. I'm an American. I'm just trying to get home. And then he kills him. But the first thing we see him do is racially abuse a Korean shop owner and then bust up his shop.
Yeah.
Where it's hard to get on his side when that's the first thing we see him doing.
But I think that's the point. I don't think we are supposed to be on his side. Or rather,
also, very Rob-coded, just taking a little can of Coke, just pressing it to his face.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Coke so much. I love it.
I don't think we are supposed to be on his side. All we see him do is leave his car, and you can't really care at that point, and then beat up a man and racially abuse him.
Well, not so much on his side, but it felt to me like the film wanted the audience to see themselves in Michael Douglas's character, to understand the frustration of being stuck in a traffic jam, everyone's had that fantasy, right, where you just want to throw your computer out the flipping window in the office, just, well, fuck this, I'm off, and anyone who does anything, how many times have we bitten our tongue when we see someone doing something just not
Socially
appropriate, not courteous, and we bite our tongue, especially in Britain. In America, I think it's a little bit different. They're quite loose with.
In the city, yeah.
Shut up, pal. What do you think you're doing there?
That's exactly what they say.
God, pal.
Hey, do they say
you say pal?
Pal?
Hey, pal.
Can I zoom out and just give a tiny bit of context? I don't have loads written down at all. So Joel Schumacher directed this film, who had been, I think, in fashion in the 70s, and then in the 80s had directed some movies which, again, were very well thought of. I think he did St. Elmo's Fire. He did The Lost Boys, which is obviously quite a cool film.
Yeah.
He did a movie about like doomed love with Julia Roberts just before this. So I think quite an eclectic career, and then obviously went on to do the Batman sequels.
This is what I know him from. So when I saw directed by Joel Schumacher, I was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun, this film. But yeah, I can't say I've seen any of Joel Schumacher's earlier work.
It's an interesting, I don't know, like zeitgeisty is what I would kind of say. Like, there's no one genre. I'm not sure there's a big sense of sort of style or approach there, but they're all like, lots of them are interesting films, but they're very dotted around. And the remarkable thing for me, like looking back at this, say the traffic jam at the beginning is so similar to, well, two things. One is the Everybody Hurts, which you must have seen, the music video for REM's Everybody Hurts, and which is in turn, I think, inspired by, there's a Fellini movie called Eight and a Half, where at the beginning the main character, who is based on Fellini, is stuck in a car. It's quite a self-important film, which I enjoy anyway, Eight and a Half. So it was interesting to me that Everybody Hurts was so recent. That was only 92, so that was a year before. And also that all of this stuff going on in LA, and like we've been to LA a bunch of times, and I don't think any of us particularly enjoy being there. I don't really feel it as like a town of seething kind of tension, which I think it was at this point. It definitely was. The movie was, I was immediately kind of thinking, oh, the LA, riots from 90 whatever, and I was wondering whether they were before or after the film, and they interrupted some of the filming of the film.
Oh, right.
So just again capturing a sense of something that was going on. And then like to my kind of last point, which was just again thinking about the values of the film, because I think Joel Schumacher is a pretty liberal, like they're all like liberal Hollywood guys. Michael Douglas for sure, and uncomfortable. I don't think that you would have people of that kind of political persuasion even approaching a subject from this angle now. I don't think Michael Douglas would ever say, hey, you're supposed to feel sorry for deviants, and the things that he does are okay. I don't think that's, and I think he's smart enough to do interesting work because it's the questions are worth asking. But even then, I think that it's such a dog whistle potentially for people who do think that, and I think that the lines have been slightly redrawn, not just in American politics but in kind of all of Western politics. So I guess all of that is to say, I feel like this really speaks to, and the scene in the shop which you were kind of talking about with the prices, a really specific moment of American politics, that kind of end of Reagan, what's happened after the 80s, like the huge importance of like money, similar to kind of Thatcherism here, and it speaks to people, the end of that kind of post-war boom of everybody having enough, when one person can work one job, support a family, and everybody can be happy. And that's kind of where his character is, kind of this abandoned middle class anyway. And that was the only way I could perceive this film as anything other than quite objectionable. I think, like remembering that those things were on the ballot at that point, like economics and immigration, and whether two people had to work, and like broken families, and like that, the moral panic of the 80s which came along with republicanism. Anyway, I've spoken for ages, so yeah. Somebody else say so it was all right for him to smash up that Korean man's shop. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think it was all right, obviously, but I guess we're supposed to be rooting for Robert Duvall, who is excellent, and
I was less convinced by Robert. I really like Robert Duvall. I felt like he was maybe 10 years too old to play this part. He's supposed to be retiring early, and he's maybe supposed to have like a work kind of spark with the female detective.
Yes.
Who is 30 years younger than him in this film.
He's married to a woman 40 years younger than him now, Robert Duvall, isn't he?
Is he? I was
Yeah.
going to say, because in the movie, his wife is 10 years. Tuesday World is like a...
Yeah.
But she seems and acts like, again, she seems like a generational...
I really enjoyed his character. I thought he was
fair.
brilliant in this. I really enjoyed the little sort of Mulder and Scully style, if you could call it that, sexual tension between him and his female colleague. And I was rooting for both him, and I wouldn't say I was rooting for Michael Douglas's character at all, but I felt sorry for both of them. I did feel sorry for both of them, and it's just, you know, it's emasculation, but two different people being emasculated in different ways, I guess, and their very different approaches to it and reactions to it. They're almost like, you know, the yin and yang to each other, aren't they? These two characters, Prendergast, what a name, and Defense. Prendergast, obviously, who tragically lost his daughter young. Defense, who has sort of like symbolically lost his daughter and is trying to get back to her.
He's lost his job, and Prendergast is losing his job, or about to.
Yeah. It's strange, and it all kind of comes to a head at the end of the pier. And again, I don't know if it was really trying to say anything about anything other than, look, these two men, and I think it speaks to a very quite traditionally masculine experience, I guess. These two men who have lost their ability to provide, or have lost their place in their family and in society, and therefore they've lost themselves to a degree. Like you're cheering at the end, aren't you, when Prendergast tells his wife to shut up, because he's been sort of like, you know...
You are, and I felt like, wow, what a moment that was.
He's been under the... You know, he's getting shit from all sides, isn't he? He's being sort of teased and bullied. Not really bullied. You get the idea. He is quite respected at work, but not by the guys that matter. Like that one guy basically tells him, I never liked you. Yeah. You never swear.
The captain.
You
the
never
captain
curse.
who boxes in his own office.
Yeah.
Yeah, and didn't know about his daughter. It was awful.
Yeah.
You got your daughter? He's like, yeah, no, the child is dead or something. He says like, she.
Yeah.
It was a horrible scene. I really thought, like, in a good way, like, that guy's just a dick.
Yeah, but his wife just constantly, he's trying to juggle being on the... What a strange phone he has as well. What's going on with his phone? It's like half old style phone and half more modern phone. What's going on?
It's specific to American offices, I think.
Is it?
It's so you can put it on your shoulder and still do something at your desk.
Okay.
It's got like a big shoulder mount. It's like a violin.
I really enjoyed that. Oh, that's good. And I've lost my train of thought there. But yeah, you know, he's, you know, 1 minute, and he's juggling that conversation where, you know, his female colleague is trying to get a statement taken from the people at the fast food restaurant. Mm-hmm. He's got his wife talking to him about, I can't remember what, the shopping he's got to get when he gets home. You got to get home, it's your last day. Yeah. And at the end, he kind of snaps, but his version of snapping is telling his wife to shut up, whereas Michael Douglas's version of snapping is going on a violent crime spree through LA.
Yeah.
I don't want to just skip to the end, because I had some thoughts about that last scene on the pier. Obviously, it's very good. Some really specific ones. You're right about the escalating nature of the crimes, and I was also alienated from the beginning. I think that the idea... So he walks into the Korean store, which is obviously a trope of immigrants to America starting businesses like corner stores, like restaurants, and making small businesses. And he is annoyed by the prices, which I think, like I said, I think that would be...
They sounded like great prices to me.
I know, yeah. And I think that would be like the thing which helped people to side with him, even though he's going off the deep end real quick. And he just wants change. I was thinking, if I was running a business, someone just came in and just wanted change. Yeah. Let's buy some chewing gum. What are you doing? Yeah. Anyway, I was quite annoyed. And then he starts smashing it up. So already probably not on his team. He grabs the baseball bat and then he just walks. And I think it's quite an accurate walk. Apparently they're from, I'm not sure where it is outside, like further outside of LA than I've ever been. And then he's traveling basically like through Koreatown to Santa Monica. Or no, Venice Beach, isn't it? Onto the pier. What's the next...
The next thing is
which he does.
He takes a sit down to put some newspaper in his broken shoes.
Oh yeah.
And those two guys come up and say he's in their territory and he has to pay a toll.
He does, which has happened to all of us in LA. These were the worst gang members ever.
They weren't the best.
Just scared, running in different directions because of a man with a baseball bat.
Yeah, who threw away his baseball bat.
I know.
Although, to be fair, that guy, he may have had a broken arm. And then they shot up everybody but their target.
They killed like 5 people.
Yeah.
Just to not kill defense.
And crashed.
Yeah.
I was thinking, the one thing you
died.
the one thing not to do is crash.
Yeah.
The driver's got one job on the drive-by. You don't have to do any of the shooting.
Yeah.
You just have to drive by and then smoothly get out of there. I mean, we've all done it in GTA enough times.
I know.
Just in, out. But they really fail hard.
How do you feel about defense shooting that guy in the leg?
I enjoyed that. Yeah.
You see? I knew this was the film for you.
But that's, this is a bit of a trope, isn't it? We've seen it in, I guess, a little bit in like Taken, where Liam Neeson's obviously a more heroic character, and he's on like a very noble mission to save his daughter from these criminals. But there's seeing people who deserve it get their comeuppance. There's a pleasure in that, isn't there? I mean, I absolutely detest Ricky Gervais's Afterlife. But like the opening, well, it's that classic Gervais thing where he's like, has an idea for something he thinks is funny and then parades it around for. But the first episode is just him telling some arseholes who we've all encountered, and he tells them what we would tell them in our heads but not actually say. There's like a pleasure in being able to live out that violent fantasy without having any consequences to yourself, almost like you're playing it in a video game. That's one of the great catharsises of violent video games, I guess, like GTA, is just being able to let loose without there being any real circumstance, and being able to live that fantasy through Michael Douglas's character. When it's someone who deserves it, it's great. Like the neo-Nazi, we all wanted him to get murdered. The gangland members, they're horrible. And that's why I found the shop owner at the beginning a little bit strange.
Yeah.
It's like, because you can get on board with oh my God, these prices are so, everyone can relate to, oh my God, a can of Coke costs, well, in 1993, 80 cents, I'm guessing it's a lot. But we can all imagine going into Sainsbury's now being like, what, 40p for a Freddo?
Yeah.
Man. And then just bashing up all the shelves.
To be fair, there is a step we've missed, and I can't completely remember it. I mean, he's definitely being racist.
Yeah, that's the thing. Why? That was the bit that just I didn't get. It didn't seem like he's clearly a very troubled man, but he's racist to this Korean guy, and then he seems rightly offended and appalled by the neo-Nazi when he's displaying all of his racism and awful tendencies.
Definitely.
And I do wonder whether it's a little bit of a mistake or a misjudgment, or just a bit of its time, where in 1993 maybe it was a little bit more socially acceptable to mock the accent of a Korean man.
My take was that it was more part of his breakdown. Like, he's not, I mean, I was going to say he's not going around beating people up, although he does have a restraining order against him.
Yeah.
Because his wife definitely thought he could be violent. But I suppose I felt like it was the start of his breakdown, like being racist, saying something racist, like something that he doesn't or hasn't thought before, hasn't necessarily believed before, or has repressed those feelings, has lived within...
The repression was why.
Lived within a different state, and he's broken down, and he's just saying the bad thing, the thing I shouldn't be saying. I'm saying it, and then obviously that escalates, and he doesn't just smash up the store. In a way, he is like, the guy gets the baseball bat and is going to hit him with the bat, and they have a tussle, and then he's like, "You were going to hit me with this. You think I'm a thief? Like, I'm outraged, and you're the thief." It's like there is an escalation and a sort of a pathway there. I think the racism might be part of that, but it's less clear.
I think the thing that we're all responding to is that,
because that's the start of the film. That's all we see is this guy.
The justification is not quite enough.
No,
so it seems so early in the film that you'd think there would be like a gateway crime.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Where someone is just definitely rude or wrongs him, and that bringing out the racism immediately, it made me wonder whether that anti-immigration or immigration in general, or that sense of the buzzwords that he was kind of using of, if you come to this country, like, I can't understand you, and like, I have the right as an American to speak English and to be understood in English and to understand what you're saying, speak the language of the country. All the tropes that you kind of hear today made me wonder whether they were more alive in the 80s. I just wasn't around to know really. But it's interesting that those, America, well, it is a racist. There is a huge racist undertone there. I wondered how much it was.
Well, there were riots during the filming of this film because of racism.
yeah, that's true. That is, it's completely true.
And Korean shops smashed up, burned. Really
famously, there's that incredible shot of, and it is relevant because he tries to defend his shop. There's a famous shot, an aerial shot of two Korean guys on top of their convenience store, I think with semi-automatic weapons.
God.
Like waiting for crowds to come to
smash it up,
to smash and loot their shop, and they're ready for them.
Yeah.
And what a mad kind of political moment, what a social moment, and a battle zone that it became.
Yeah.
So I think within the terms of the film, I almost feel like this is a mistake, or this is or maybe it was easier to swallow it then, but I also think it makes it a brilliant film.
Yeah.
Because of the stuff that happens later, because he is going to kill his family.
Yeah.
And Robert Duvall's character says it, and I don't know how clear it was at that point. Here's some stuff when men go off the deep end, and it is always men. Statistically almost 100%, I think maybe 100%, like that family annihilator, just like my role has broken down, my sense of self has broken down, and here are the things which are latent and bugging me. And like you said, I think the film is good enough that it does make you wonder, is this stuff just coming out now? Is this like conservative man saying these things, up to the point of destroying the thing which he is sad that he can't provide for and sort of protect or be with anymore, and that sort of sense of ownership and control that is inherent in that perspective towards their families. What it made me think was, though, threading the needle of like white American conservatism. I am not a Nazi, but I don't like it when people speak to me with a foreign accent in convenience stores. Like whether that was like a mainstream, I don't know. But the film is good enough to sort of contain all of these things.
Yeah.
I thought that you were absolutely right, Rob, when he walks away with that bag of guns. That felt like a very video game moment. And just walks into the crowd.
It's the loot that he picks up continually from the people he's
he does,
battered. He picks up the flip knife from the gang members. He's like, "I'll leave my baseball bat. Do you want to drop the baseball bat?" Yes, drop. Pick up knife. Puts it in his you can imagine like you've got a pouch and then you've got a bag full of guns, and you can access your weapon wheel at any point, and then you've got your special, on a hotkey, the flip knife, which saves him during his encounter with the Nazi.
And also then during the Nazi, it is like going to ammunition, and he just gets like a completely different outfit, just his war outfit. Well, they say he looks like G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, yeah.
G.I. Joe. I guess I don't know if there are many things that happen between then and the Nazi. I think that probably looking back, this is maybe the most shocking bit of the film.
Oh yes, it's very uncomfortable.
It's horrible, and it's because of the sympathy which then diverges in and disgust from Michael Douglas, whose character considers himself a right-thinking, I think conservative, but like an upstanding. I'm not a thief. I'm morally in the right, and I'm just thinking about today. Obviously, I think.
Well, he goes into the fast to Whammy Burger before. The Nazi
Whammy
scene.
Burger is the scene which it used to get played all the time because it is the one scene I think everyone can be like, it's 2 minutes past breakfast time. Come on,
it's a real cliche now, isn't it? You've almost like I felt certain I'd seen this scene before. It's like I've seen this scene before, or I've heard this in a Bill Burr stand-up routine or something before.
Right,
and it's just like It's like when Krusty the Clown is trying to do stand-up in The Simpsons. Is it Krusty the Clown? He's lost his job as the clown, and he's trying to do stand-up, and he practices it. For some reason, he's staying with The Simpsons, and he practices a routine in front of Lisa, and he comes up with a joke like, "Why are there two phone books? Huh? What's up with that?" And Lisa's just like, "One's business, one's residential." And it's that kind of joke for me. It felt like so overly done and so cliched, but maybe falling down was the thing that sparked it.
I remember him the clip which they showed really specifically on the TV spots back then was him holding up his horrible flat burger and looking at the picture. And I do remember me and my friends going to McDonald's around that time, and all of us going, "It is exactly like that. Look at my
I
shit burger."
massively agree with that bit. Like, I think it's a mad racket. It seems crazy to me, actually, and I'm part of it, that we just accept the nonsense that you get served at like a McDonald's.
Well, this
or
is the thing about the film. It's like it's serving you this nonsense and the things we all get annoyed about through the lens of this character.
Yes,
which is why I'm so certain the movie wants us to be, if not on his side, empathizing a lot with him and where his annoyances come from, where his disillusionment comes from, and just. You know, there are some characters who Michael Douglas's character, Defense, whatever his name is, Bill. Let's call him Bill from now on. There's that guy protesting outside the bank saying, "I'm not economically viable anymore."
That was an amazing scene.
And he gets carted away in his car, and they share a look, and he says to him, doesn't he, like, "Remember me" or something?
Yeah.
And Bill gives him like a little nod. And just after that, he has like a completely perfectly pleasant exchange with another like street market seller who sells in the little snow globe. He's like, "How much is this?" "Oh, that's just $3." And it's just like a perfectly nice exchange. And you're like, oh, so if he is not served nonsense, he can be a completely upstanding member of society, but he's lost his tolerance or any kind of ability to absorb the pressures of the crap that society is throwing at him and us.
The not economically viable guy was amazing because he was he was like a black version of Bill.
Yes.
Like he was wearing exactly the same pens in his pocket and everything. Maybe a couple of steps further down the just going insane road, and the look that they shared was, as he went, was like really elevated and just almost like a transcendent moment in the film. That was fucking great. And it does cut to, I think that the momentum which it builds up in terms of the sympathy with this character who's doing slightly bad things, and then it smashes into maybe like an ultimate destination for that kind of impulse, that kind of destructive sort of male impulse in the Nazi scene, and then in the scene where he's going to kill his family and then is prevented from doing so. And I think that it is like a really interesting examination of, it forces us to confront, you know, oh, you like that? Well, this is where it goes. This is where, like,
yeah, I wondered about that too.
And this scene where he's not being, you know, he's not just being crazy or racist to people and showing sympathy with people in his situation who aren't white. I think it just deepens the character and complicates things. It is a complicated thing, isn't it? Being an insane racist man.
Yeah,
it's a hard business.
I suppose people aren't just black and white. As in, you know,
sometimes they're Korean,
right? And you know, like it's. There's something in that. We can't just have good guys and bad guys.
I think that the film is really good because it actually forces more of a confrontation with things which I think we speak more about in this century for sure, but at the same time isn't afraid to kind of examine why these positions exist and why it's possible to sympathise with them. The horrible homeless man in the park. If there was any character I kind of wish he'd shot, it was that guy. Wish I probably picks up on my own prejudices,
but he didn't. And there you go. I mean, it's the sort of his response fit the crime. I guess the crime of just asking for money.
Well, I guess again, to
Rob's
point earlier on, it is the I wish I'd said that. Do you know what I mean? To someone who has asked me for money.
Well, I have been completely hoodwinked by one of these guys before, to the point where I was on the tube going towards Paddington Station, and a guy came and sat next to me, and he just said, you know, "Hi, my name's blah blah blah."
Yeah,
and everyone else was ignoring him. I thought, at least I can do it. I thought, I'm going to be really nice. I'm going to acknowledge this man, shake his hand, and say what my name is. And ultimately, what this led to is him sort of like
threatening me,
shadowing me through the ticket gate at Paddington. So I
Jesus.
pressed my ticket, and he slipped through with me.
Oh no!
He was speaking about video games on the way up the escalator, and I think it ended with me withdrawing £30 from an ATM for him, and then buying him a sandwich from Pret. Because I didn't want to die. I didn't want to die.
Oh, when was this?
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. That is not long enough
great.
ago.
That's
is
great.
wild.
That's great.
I didn't want to die. I think he was walking really close to me. I thought he could have a knife in there or something.
If I was scared of the person I was with, there's no fucking way I would go anywhere
if I
near
was
an ATM.
maybe if I was like completely alone, but in Paddington.
Also, just the idea how much.
I'm not going to judge you too much.
How much money are we getting out for me, Rob? £300. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you stop him from just pressing the button?
I got in New York, but by that kind of a thing where I was like, someone came up to me and like, hey, like, tried to give me a free CD.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll take a free CD. Like, I like, music, and I know what it's like when you want people to listen to your music. I was like, I'll take a free CD.
That was when we were in New York together.
Yes, it was. And he was like, would you give me a donation for the kids? I think he said. And I was like, and I was just like, I just want this to go away. So I was like, I'll give you like
just $100.
I'll give you like $5. And he was like, that'd be great. And then
oh, you get your money
I
out.
got my wallet out and he saw like $20 and he was like, you could give me $20, I'll give you change. And I was like, yeah. I just gave him the $20 and then I can't remember the exchange
he ran away
fully. He didn't run away at all. He didn't need to run away and he knew it. He was just like, but it's for the kids. And then he was just sort of holding the $20 and looking at me and I was like, just to keep the money.
That is awful.
And then I walked off.
I think when I was 18 as well, I got done by the my car's broken down line and gave a woman £10 and then gave her my address as well.
So she could like mail it back.
She could mail the £10 back. Wow. And hearing the line in this movie, it's like, that's why I remembered it.
What?
Like, oh my God. That woman never even meant to mail me the £10 back, did she?
She must have forgot. Oh, she's a nice woman. I hope she got home. She must have forgot. Yeah, that's great.
Crazy.
Oh yeah, well I am going to try and remember all those lines now. Yeah, can I see your driving license? Can I?
Yeah.
Can I see your have your address on it? Yeah, it was another horrible exchange.
I want to hear more stories about this.
Where's your story about getting tricked by someone?
I don't think I've ever been tricked. I'm sure I've
or intimidated into parting with cash.
Yeah, well, in Vegas, and I think maybe it's like a particularly American thing. The tip culture in America is insane.
Yes,
and I hate it. And specifically, I really hate the in person. Like at the end of a meal, yeah, I'm tipping. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like, and I think everybody agrees now that all the different places that you can tip, and people holding up that thing with the fucking 3 blue squares. And it's like, would you like to tip 15, 20, or maybe 100%?
Yeah. Is there other?
When we were in New York, it would be like people, you'd go up to a counter, they would get a Coke from a fridge and then spin this fucking thing around. Just like, how much more than the price that you expected to pay would you like to pay for me doing my job?
And there's tax on that, which wasn't on the price on the thing anyway.
So anyway, we should blow up America. And I got off a transfer from the airport, got to my hotel, and it was like a bellboy, like just a guy at the MGM Grand, and he just simply stood. Whatever interaction we were having, we were outside the hotel. I think he'd put all of like the group's bags onto like one of those trolleys.
Yeah,
and he just looked at me in the face, just like,
yeah,
what's going on? Until I was like, oh shit, oh, tipping. And I was like, oh, sorry, man. Yeah, I'm from the UK. I don't really tip. And he said, that's fine. Not like, don't worry, but just like, that's fine.
You can
and
tip
then we
now.
just continue to wait. We were so far outside any of the bounds of social comfort, which I would expect anywhere.
What was the service he provided, putting the bags onto the trolley?
I think, honestly, just being there. He might have opened a door. I'm not sure what he did.
Right.
But he was clearly just not, in the way that I find Americans can do when they're at work especially, just operating on a level, just, there was no human connection to anything that we were doing. It's like superpower. It's like just how they can just go, the normal rules of being alive are suspended, and I'm just going to shake you the fuck down, or I'm going to be rude to you, or whatever. Americans are crazy.
It's incredibly stressful going to America.
Any Americans listening?
Fuck you guys.
Obviously not. Happy anniversary, Redshirt Cinema. But it's incredibly and especially for Brits, I think, who like we do, or in general, strive to be polite and whatever. And it's like the idea, that's what ties me in knots, is the idea of like, I don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah.
I want to ingratiate myself to this culture, and I don't want to look a fool, but also it stresses me out, and it's so different to my culture.
These guys are like Nietzschean supermen, like genuinely. They have extracted themselves from whatever social constraints are holding us all down, and they're smashing us for $1.
Yeah.
It's awful. I think I've said before, when I went to Japan, a couple of times I've been to Japan, the second time...
You can't tip there.
I was really ill, and I was with a guy called Daniel who used to run IGN in Japan, and he...
Dan Robson.
Yeah, a lovely guy, and he'd moved to Japan, I think, to run Smash Hits over there. And he had learnt Japanese. I said, "Oh, what was the secret to learning Japanese?" He said, "Trying really hard and then getting drunk with people." I was like, that sounds great. So he was. We went there for the reveal of Vita. I interviewed Shinya Yoshida, NGP as it was called then, and I got a horrible cold and I was really, really ill. And Dan saved my life by taking me to like the commissary, like the cafe within the Sony headquarters, where they didn't have any English menus and nobody spoke English to you because it was so like away from the sort of the beaten track of visitors. And ordered some really nice soup, and I felt like I would have just died if he hadn't helped me out. But on that trip, I just realised that I was so much more comfortable with, even though I couldn't understand a word, so much more comfortable around Japanese people, just because their idea of personal space and manners and being nice to each other is much closer to what I was used to from home than America. Made me realise, like, that whole cliche of just like two nations separated by a common language is true, and America is terrible.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think it's actually rude to tip in Japan. It's frowned upon. People don't want. They won't accept a
great
tip.
Nation.
Yeah,
a great nation.
It's fantastic.
I can just see our Patreon page and all of the
support.
All of the support, just like.
You don't like tipping? You don't like.
But then maybe an influx of fantastic Japanese
some
supporters.
Really lovely American people as well in my time.
It's too late, Rob. It's too late. We've done the damage.
I'm scared of America.
Yes,
I find it scary. Quite a scary place.
That's the correct.
But I mean, falling down probably didn't help with that. It's I think.
Although I will say that I've probably been to LA 15 times now for work, and the last few times, like, it has started to grow on me like a little bit.
I think it's grown on all of us.
There's something there. There is something there, and we saw it after the fires that happened earlier. Was it this year? It was earlier this year.
Last year. Like
there is like it's a big sprawling place, and it's weirdly, everything's so separate, especially when you come at it from like a European or a British culture where all our cities are structured and shaped a certain way. But despite that, there is like a real sense of community spirit there, which I sort of admire. And I mean, I've become less scared of LA as I've been there more and more. I know there are places that it probably isn't wise for me to go, and I haven't been there. But we've all got a friend who lives out there now, and she seems to really enjoy living out there.
David Lynch loved it.
There is a magic to it. And I know that you always have the big argument, don't they? Are you an LA person or are you a New York person? If I had to choose between those two, I think I'd be picking LA.
Oh, no chance. New York every time for me.
Same. And I don't even like New York that much.
I've only been to New York once, so I don't know if I can really have a fair opinion, having been to LA 15 times.
I do agree, though. I think we all have said that LA's grown on us, and it is so alien. But the familiarity with it, starting to learn its rules, understand how it's put together, you can see the good stuff. Does rise up, and obviously, it's a very huge popular place to live. People do like it. It's got all the film industry.
Slowly. I kind of feel like the places where people actually live, I'm still not sure I've actually been to many of them.
Yeah, well, there's like the places outside the city, all of the different. It's so strange, isn't it? It's like some people will describe it as multiple cities within a city. The city of Los Angeles itself is just the dense bit in the middle, and outside you've got Pasadena, and I don't know the names of any of the others.
Oh, no, go on.
Loads. Anaheim, that's one.
Yeah,
that's where Disney World is.
Yeah.
I like Anaheim.
Yeah.
I shared a taxi once from the airport to my hotel with another guy who'd just come off, and he lived in LA. And I remember I was speaking to him about it, just like, what's it like living in LA? And he's like, oh man, I love it. It's amazing. And he just spoke about it in a way that I'd never really thought about or understood before. Because at the time, the thought of living LA absolutely terrified me. It's like, man, I would be killed within a week if I lived here.
Yeah, I think it's because living somewhere in the UK, it feels like like living in Bath, for example, it feels like, especially because I walk to work, that my home is a big circle around my house. You know, and I understand that. I don't know how big that circle is, but I understand that place and what's in it and how to get to the different places. Whereas it feels like in LA, a circle is like you have loads of little circles and they're all joined together by roads, and it's just you just are used to being in your house, getting in your car, going to wherever, going to the gym, going to a restaurant, going to work, going to a shop. But none of those things are necessarily, you don't live in an area as much as you live in several places that are all linked together. And that's my impression of it. And it's very different to how I live. But I think if you get into that mindset of just like, I don't live in an area, I live in like places connected by my car. Then you just start picking the places you really like and you just keep frequenting them, and it's just like, oh, I like all these places.
Like Milton Keynes.
Perhaps, yeah.
I think people say that a lot, that LA's a lot like Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
They're practically the same place.
MK. I'm going to downtown MK.
I want to get back to the film.
What?
Yeah, I think we should. I was interested in the plight of Bill's wife. Because she has a horrible day.
She's having a bad time.
It's really awful. And I found the police attitude to it pretty heinous. In particular, the guy at the start who's just questioning why she's got a restraining order. Like, it just is none of his business. It doesn't matter. It's a matter of law. It's been adjudicated.
Because you might think that a film which was flirting with a sympathy with, well, maybe it's not strange, but kind of conservatism would be quite pro law and order. But the police are dicks in this film for the most part.
They, as I said, question.
Prendergast isn't.
No, it's true.
No, but the people around him, a lot of the people around him are. We see that young woman who is involved in the gang. She is telling the truth and told she's not, and eventually we see her going through processing, having agreed that it was a gang shooting.
There's quite a comment maybe on like white privilege here, just how he's able as a white man to basically get away with everything, literal murder at one point, and it's only Prendergast really that cottons on, and like no one believes this is not going to be a white man dressed in a tie shooting up people in gangland. Of course it wasn't. It was going to be a gang member's done this. You're lying. And he just swans on through. He just walks calmly through all of this chaos and all of this violence, and he is not touched by it.
Well, it's like the black version of him is just shouting outside a bank.
Yes,
and he's whisked away.
Yeah,
he's fucking shooting people, and he's walking away.
There's no consequence for him at all.
And what I do, I think that again, like why this is a unusually sort of it's such a confusing film in terms of progressive, but also then problematic and difficult to swallow. But the whole idea of the police not taking a woman's complaint seriously against her husband, like the white guy is having the time of his life. He's on easy street compared to everybody else. And the film is kind of just laying that bare. It is interesting. Multiple visits by the police not doing anything.
I did think at the time when he's outside that bank and that guy's not economically viable and the police arrive and put him away, and I thought Bill's going to intervene. He's going to at least question what's going on. This isn't why is this man being arrested? All he's doing is got a sign. Why is he being arrested? And he's a man he's gone off the edge. He's got guns. He's shot people. He will shoot other people. But he's I thought this was going to be a moment for him to do something kind of good or at least question authority, but he doesn't do it. And it's interesting again with nothing to lose and with a character that he really clearly is like, I see you, man. Like we're the same guy. He still lets it. It's not like he's just fighting for justice.
Lawful.
He's just like,
look. What do you know?
Still part of the system, and still like, well,
Michael Douglas is very good in this film, and I think the look that he gives, he's like, without saying anything, his face is saying, "I am learning." Which is something that Rob does as well. But he just looks at that guy going away in the car, and there is like a real like, Bill will remember this.
Yes.
Just like he's just seeing something in operation that he is seeing for the first time.
Yeah.
It's an interesting moment.
Yeah. I just thought it was fascinating that he doesn't get it. It seems like it's set up especially for him to get involved and to do something. He's like got nothing to lose really at this point, and he doesn't do it. And it's kind of like he's still, although he's off the edge, he's still part of the system to some degree, or still, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not articulating it.
Do you
very
know?
well.
I thought maybe it was understanding, and these are things that happen that people are drawing lines between now, which is, like there is a class hierarchy in America, even though it's less visible than there is in the UK or in Europe, and there is certainly like a race hierarchy, and did you all see the SNL sketch with Tom Hanks? I think is it Black Jeopardy, and Tom Hanks plays like a white Southern conservative guy in his 60s who happens to go on to Black Jeopardy, and they're all like, it's very funny. It's a fucking brilliant sketch.
Right.
And they're all like, first of all, why are you here? But then as he starts answering, the joke is, at this point in America, white conservatives have got so much more in common with working class black people than they ever thought that they would. And it's quite affectionate, and it's really funny and telling. And the Dave Chappelle version of that joke is just like, white people are having their opioid crisis, and is all those jokes about black people and crack in the 80s aren't so funny now, are they? Fuck you guys. And it was interesting almost to see kind of that moment of connection between Michael Douglas and the protester was that recognition of, here's somebody that I did not think I was the same as actually, and now maybe that's me. And it's like tying into that idea of this is prosperous post-war white middle-class America realizing that things aren't as good as they should be or were, and now actually maybe I have more in common with these people that I saw as different groups to myself than I had done in the past.
Yeah.
And then we come to Nazis.
Yes.
Who wants to talk through the Nazi scene? That guy's cool. He doesn't like the cops, and he certainly doesn't like those handsome young men in his shop.
I don't know. It's
So it's really difficult to talk around. It's obviously a horrible, horrible scene, and he really gets what he deserves.
This scene
Killed.
probably launches into like the Korean guy defending his shop. That's relatively realistic. We've all been held up by gangbangers in LA. That's exactly how it happens.
Yes.
So that was very realistic. This scene probably, like how rude he is to those guys who are in his shop to buy stuff. We probably just wouldn't let them in, or he'd ask them to leave immediately, whatever. But that tension's there, and
I felt like he was playing up to, as soon because he's listening to the police scanner. He hears about the whammy burger, sees that Bill's in the shop, and he's like, "Oh, I need to. We think alike. I'm going to impress this guy." And so he starts showing his true colours.
I see, yeah, okay. Social flocking kind of vibe. But then going into the back room and it just being full of
There's a Nazi Santa.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something.
I mean, I guess they were making them.
They
had 4 or 5 Christmases under Nazi rule.
The best Christmases.
Well, more than that.
More
but
than that.
during the actual war.
Yeah. I wonder what Hitler's
What was
opinion on
Christmas like
was.
in Germany?
I don't know.
I don't know whether Father Christmas existed in
It's like a sequel to Springtime for Hitler. It's Christmas time for Hitler.
Yeah. It's a horrible scene. It's difficult to talk about.
But
But
it's sort of funny, isn't it? It's kind of like, in terms of, it didn't seem enormously realistic to me that this guy is selling hiking boots or whatever. It's a military surplus store, but in the back he's just got all of this and he's like willing to give some of it, like a Zyklon B canister. Just have that.
Yeah.
That's for you.
That's for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And I guess it is. Why is the scene there, I suppose? Because we've been talking about, because it feels like it's there for everyone to go, yeah, kill that guy.
I guess
and it's like but it's like there's been so much kind of weird nuance to the rest of the film and Bill's character, where you're like we've been struggling with, like, occasionally I empathise with him, and then I'm like, oh no, but then he's a horrible racist.
But he gets his realisation that he is not like this man. And like, is it just before or just after he has the realisation where he is a bit like the uneconomically viable black man?
I think it's just
like
before,
and it's like you say, Nath, who does the white conservative identify more with? You might think it would be the homophobic, racist, violent neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
But no, it's not that. And he literally says, we're like you, me and you, we're the same. And he's like, I am not like you. And then kills him. And it's just a symbolic, but also a very literal rejection of that.
Yeah.
So this is a man. I get what I felt the film was saying was like this. Michael Douglas, it could be any of us.
Yeah.
And there are so many things you empathise with him. Like the first interactions he has with his wife in the film, I felt sympathy for him because it was that very male experience, that traditionally male experience of being denied access to your kids, and you're like, oh man, she's being really unfair, and then gradually it's revealed that actually, you know, he's a sinister, potentially violent, abusive ex-partner who isn't just terrifying his wife and his child, but also his mother who he lives with. She's also terrified of him.
Yeah.
And he's on this slide, isn't he? He's lost his job a month ago. And he's sort of realizing what he is and what he isn't. He's absolutely not a neo-Nazi. Like he's not just. And I guess what it's saying is not all people who end up committing heinous, violent crimes are doing so from a position of explicit racism or homophobia or neo-Nazism.
Evil.
This is in the system we live with. It can turn the most seemingly normal of people, just a straight-laced white guy in a shirt and a tie and glasses, into a
killer.
a psychopath, a killer. Like
I've got a more cynical read, which is what it's showing is that is underneath everything all the time, and I feel like reality has really borne that out. Like the America's really fucked up now, and I think that those feelings of those male-centered or male-experienced like feelings of control and anger and superiority in the face of other races and violence towards family and towards others, and as a kind of point of desperation. I think that the film has that moment of saying, well, this is where that road leads. This fucking guy with his Nazi memorabilia, and the white guy rejects it. But I think that 30 years later, there are Nazi salutes after like an American election, and there are like people like Musk funding or sanctioning kind of AfD in Germany. Like that is where it has gone in like the most literal, hilarious of ways. And I feel like this is an interesting milestone on that kind of journey of like Fox News was launched in the 80s. The culture wars, I guess, were extremely nascent at this point. And this is, like I said, this is like just a check-in moment where these things are being examined, and that they've come a lot further than that. It's obviously an enormously complicated set of dynamics going on in American politics, like just tracking that left and right division or Democrat Republican division from then, from the 80s until now. But yeah, I feel like that's a very optimistic way of looking at it, the way that you're looking at it. And I guess either way, credit to the film.
Well, I don't feel optimistic about it. Like I feel like you've humorously likened Michael Douglas's character to me, but I'm looking at this film like this could be me.
Humorously,
based on the choices I make or the situations I encounter, I, who consider myself to be a decent human being, could end up like this. Any one of us could.
Sure, I guess what I'm saying
that's why I wanted to show you the just cautionary tale.
But just flipping it around from, given this system, any of us could be like this.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd flip that around to say the system is like that because this is inherent in all of us. And by us, I mean, white guys. You know what I mean? And that is, well, it's the classic kind of Twitter, not all men argument. It's like, no, not all men, but but always men. So like we do with that. And it's that same inverse, I think.
Well, I wasn't saying not all men. I was saying any man.
I didn't mean to, I wasn't putting that on you. I'm sorry. That's not, yeah. And then he kills the Nazi, which is the correct thing to do.
Yes. I think that's the end of his.
That's actually the incorrect thing to do, Dave.
Terrible crimes.
That was a trap.
Oh yeah, well I know.
But you can't just.
I was just. I was
kill a Nazi. You're basically a Nazi yourself, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really listen to anything you say. I just say yes, so I can then say the thing I want to say. It just keeps you quiet, I've noticed. So yes, but I think that's the end of his rampage, isn't it? He's now. That's the last moment before he reaches home, I think.
Yes.
Also, what a home, by the way! It turns out he lives on Venice Beach.
I know.
It's the front row of houses.
Well, he doesn't.
Well, no, he doesn't.
So
but I mean,
tying into how
he's really lost quite a lot.
He does.
He's lost his wife, his
also,
child.
you say it's the end of his rampage. He definitely is going there to kill his family.
But I mean before his destination. He's reached his destination, and obviously he's trying to he's going to kill his family, which to be honest to me wasn't clear. And actually,
it wasn't clear to me until Prendergast
I don't mean
said
that it wasn't clear. I just mean, I didn't know that. And he says it, and I'm like, of course, I was like, I didn't know what the end game was. Maybe the end game is just like, I just want to see my family, and now I've shoot myself.
Do you know, I think it's again, because I'm not sure that the first time I saw it that I was convinced. You're worried. Oh, this guy's been he's acting strange today, and now he's in the vicinity of his daughter and ex-wife. But I guess that kind of that deniability, or that denial of the fairly obvious, it happens all the time when you see reports of people who have family and it's always like again, it's not great to comment on current cases, but the incident at the Liverpool parade, and it was ex-Royal Marine does X, Y, and Z. It's like I don't know, or like family man goes crazy. Loving father murders all of his children. These are cliches at this point, but it is incredible how we're not taking the big fact. I don't know. It's like, right up until he killed his family, he was really fond of them. And I think that sort of switch there, that kind of level of, that level of denial is in also me watching this film for the first time, just going, wonder what happened. Wonder what's going to happen.
Have you seen this film before?
When I was probably 15 or something.
Right, okay. Yeah. It's interesting because also I had a different... Watching it this time, like I said, I don't think I've watched it since I was sort of 10, it would have been hired from Mr. C's in Yeovil, and it would have been around when it came out, I'm sure, as soon as it came to VHS, so probably 1994 or 95. So yeah, I would have been 9 or 10 when I saw this. I don't know what my parents were thinking.
The latest... And
I couldn't remember much about the film. I could remember the very start, and I thought I could remember the very end, but I hadn't remembered the very end at all. What I thought the end was, I knew it ended up on the pier. I remembered him by the sea, and I thought that he was going to kill himself, and the police had found his family, and they came in to sort of plead with him not to kill himself, so that he can be arrested and justice can be served. And I couldn't remember whether he kills himself or not, but it was interesting. That's what I thought. I thought his day was just like, I'm getting out of my car, I'm going on a rampage, and I'm walking to the beach, and I'm just going to walk into the sea and die or whatever. But
that's how I'm going to do
and it's weird that I misremembered that. I can literally see the scene of him doing that to the point where I'm like, was there another cut? Was there a different ending? But I mean, sure there wasn't. So I didn't know. This film, it was interesting watching it this time because it was not living up to what I thought was going to happen. And even at the end, I still wasn't sure. I thought that we were going to get to this scene. So that moment where Prendergast lays it all out and it's like, this is what you've come here to do, even whether you don't know it. And I did get the sense, and it's just maybe great acting from Michael Douglas. I did get the sense that he didn't know it.
That's
and then
what I felt.
When he was confronted with it, he knew that was true.
Yes.
Which is excellent.
And it's kind of the next scene on from being confronted by something that misses. We're the same in the Nazi scene. He's like, no, we're not. I'm certain of that. And then being confronted with another awful suggestion, and him going, oh fuck, probably was going to do that. To be fair,
yeah. So if I can't kill them, can you just kill me? I think that will be best.
In a way, having had that realization, then he has this weird redemption of wanting to do the best for them, which is, I don't want to go to prison. I don't want her to grow up with me behind bars. Yeah. They can get some insurance money if you shoot me. So I'm going to make you shoot me.
Yes. Again, it's a weird constant moving needle of kind of good and bad, because I do believe him in that sense. I do think that he's like, there's an opportunity here for me to be a dad again. I can do the right thing. I can provide for my family. They can actually have some money.
Well, this is it. And maybe what the film is saying at the end is the best way that you can provide for your family these days in America, the best way is suicide by cop. That's the only way you can provide for your family.
Well, that is available. That is an option available
to the American middle classes. It's terrible, isn't it? And all he did was kill a Nazi, shoot a gang member in the leg. These are things that any of us should be applauded for, and smashed up a Korean store because he was charging too much Coca-Cola.
I think we're going to have to watch La La Land next week and just sort of go,
scrub ourselves.
America's lovely, isn't it? Lovely.
We should watch Mulholland Drive again. Is what we
Maybe
should
we
do.
should do LA season, or just
LA Confidential.
pick a variety of films that each show a different side of LA.
I'd really like that.
La La Land is a film, having been, as we've said, to LA loads of times and decided I didn't like it and it wasn't like the movies. La La Land was a movie that made me really want to go back. And I think that the portrayal of LA in that is incredible.
It's Pulp Fiction in LA.
I've always assumed it was.
Reservoir Dogs as well.
I'm not sure about.
I'm not sure if that's so clear.
Reservoir Dogs, they have
definitely
the conversation about tipping at the beginning of that film, and it lands very heavily on you're an arsehole if you don't tip. Here's why you should tip.
That's true. That is true.
Well, maybe I need to rewatch that.
Do you know, I've come away thinking that Falling Down is actually a really great film.
I think it's a great film.
Like a... Yeah.
It is a great film.
I was surprised. I was not expecting something so... I thought it was going to be like a dark comedy. That's what I was expecting,
Right.
knowing very little I did about it from what you had both said. I was very pleasantly surprised by how rich and complex and nuanced it was. It wasn't just a one-trick pony at all, I think.
it has its cake and eats it, in the whammy burger scene especially, because there's no real victim in that scene.
No.
And he gets to say what we all think about McDonald's. But apart from that, I really think that you stuck at every turn.
I really loved... that was a funny bit. The manager just being handed different bits of the meal deal. And again, what's that saying about, the management doesn't have a clue how to do the actual job. The female member of staff, the way he's there reading out the policy and she's just there with a big smile.
Yeah, she doesn't
nodding
seem
away
phased at any point.
That's right.
That's great.
I really liked her
There is some
character.
humour in that scene. There's also like, what's wrong with this picture or something? And it's just the little
one
boy.
kid. The one kid raised his hand, and then it cuts away. I love how it doesn't even need to finish off that interaction.
It's funny, a bit of relief. Maybe
it was in a
that
different
scene.
register, wasn't it?
Yeah. I also just want to shout out the look of the film. I said about the start and that feeling of
sweaty.
And claustrophobia and just horrible, and obviously the heat. Like we spoke a little bit in the Point Break episode about grading, and this is like probably the most obvious grade. I think it's so orange, everything is so hot, and they are just making people look hot. There's when in the first scene with police officers visiting Bill's wife, the guy's just in her kitchen just sweating, and just that constant sense of LA is so hot, and everyone, it is oppressive, the heat.
We've done an accidental LA season, haven't we? We've done Terminator 2, Point Break,
Yes,
and now Falling Down.
Yeah, very true.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
We didn't need to do it. It's almost like many movies are made in LA.
Well, famously, they're shot less and less in LA now. Right, we should wrap this up. And before we do wrap this up, just wanted to say that this week is a bonus episode time. We are about to, in our regular season, go into a viewing of all 5 Indiana Jones films. And ahead of that, for our bonus episode, we've decided to do a top 5 ranking, each of us coming up with a top 5 ranking and then discussing it in our bonus episode of Steven Spielberg films, from any of his films. I guess as director, not as producer.
As director.
As director. This is going to be hard.
Should we? I think we might have to include ones that we've already watched on the podcast before.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think so. And also, I think as a wild card, you choose one film which he is involved in but hasn't directed.
As part of the top 5, but as a bonus extra.
Number 6. So like,
number 6.
It could be a Poltergeist or a Back to the Future or a Goonies.
Star Wars? Did he do anything in Star Wars?
No. I don't
Young
think
Sherlock
so.
Holmes. I don't think he did do anything in Star Wars. He certainly watched it before it was finished and gave some direction to it. And when the opening weekend, he and George Lucas went on holiday together. I can't remember where, maybe Florida, somewhere on the beach anyway, because George Lucas didn't want to, he just wanted to be away from everything. He
Of
was
A New Hope.
incredibly stressed.
Oh, wow.
And they got the call and it was, your film has made more money than any other film ever. And it was excellent.
Yes.
That
I
is-
might extend this holiday a little bit.
That is what I was hoping for.
Stephen, great news about my film. Do you want to hear my great film news?
That is great.
Better than your film.
So join us for that on Wednesday if you are a supporter of the podcast. And if you're not, you can become one. You can join our Commander tier on our Patreon, which is Patreon.
We welcome Americans as well.
Very
Yes,
much
we do.
so.
And we apologise to Americans now that we're asking for money. So that's
A tip, if you will.
Please.
Patreon.com/Redshirt Cinema Club. You can get in touch with us. We'd love to hear your opinions on Falling Down. You can email us at redshirtcinemaclub@gmail. Actually, all of this is going to be in the bit that comes after the music. I'm just going to shut up and say goodbye.
That's what I do.
Yeah,
Take a leaf out of my book.
Shut up, goodbye. You've been listening to Redshirt Cinema Club. If you're enjoying the podcast and would like to receive 2 exclusive episodes per month, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just check the link in the description. We'd also love to hear from you. Email us at redshirtcinemaclub@gmail.com or follow us on social media. We'll be back with another episode on Monday.